It's the 10 to 1 podcast with your host, Brad Oman, featuring Ben Konowitz and Nate Loucks. And here's the podcast.
It's the 50th anniversary year, guys, and here we are. We've been doing this podcast for 50
years.
It feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, it's just
what
been
was it, like 4 years? We've done it for 3 years.
At least
3 years,
At least one.
something like that.
I feel
Who
like
knows?
we started a lot of years ago.
Has Chris Christopherson ever been on SNL?
Yeah, I think so.
He
I'm
just
pretty sure
died. He's dead.
he did die
He
earlier.
just
Yeah.
died earlier today.
Yeah, no.
Thanks, CNN.
Thanks for the good news there, buddy.
Yeah.
Good to be back for
I
a
just
new
got a
season.
text.
No,
Who texted you? Blake
Yeah.
Christopherson?
3 different people.
That's not
Really?
true.
Yeah, no, they know I'm a huge Blade fan.
How many of them were your parents?
2. And because you know how I know this? My dad texted me like, country western singer Chris Christopherson.
He had explained it to you.
Member of the Highwaymen.
Remember the Highwaymen, exactly.
Oh, actually, there is, aside from Chris Christopherson presumably being on SNL at some point, Nate can look up and see when that actually was. There is kind of a famous...
By the way, that's Brad telling me, look up.
Look at him right now. hey, guy with a laptop, the only one of us that cares about the show.
It was a famous moment, actually, that Chris Christopherson had, that it was after Sinead O'Connor had that famous moment on SNL where she tore up the Pope's photo live on TV during one of her musical performances. There was a performance she had where she was being booed by people while she was on stage, and Chris Christopherson came out and said something into her ear and talked to her, and
She was fine.
yeah, basically just hey, it's all right,
It's,
don't worry.
now
about
that
it,
it's
kinda
2024, if Sia came back on SNL and ripped up a picture of the now Pope, people are like, all right,
okay.
it's crazy how much things
Yeah.
have changed, right?
Hey, friends, real quick.
Like and subscribe.
Chris Christopherson hosted SNL in the first season, in the 24th episode.
In the first season.
Yep.
Wow.
74, 71.
way back.
76. But
That's way back then.
Yeah, good
That's,
for him. Episode 24.
and then there was somebody in 1992 that did an impression of Chris Christopherson. Who was it?
In 1992.
I'm gonna say it's got to be Phil Hartman.
It's a little ironic, by the way, that you just mentioned Sinead O'Connor because
It was on the Sinead O'Connor episode?
No, the same sketch though had a Sinead O'Connor impression.
I'm going to say it's Dana Carvey.
I went with Phil Hartman.
The answer is Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, so this is the 50th season of Saturday Night
Guys,
Live.
we made it.
It's a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. Things are already off to a big start because they announced the hosts last week. Or maybe it was the week before at this point.
They
announced the first 5, and this is the first time in a long time. This is a rarity that has happened. They're doing 4 back-to-back episodes.
It's usually 3 on,
yeah.
1 or 2 off, 3 on, 1 or 2 off.
Yeah, exactly. They very rarely do 4 in a row like that because it's a pretty tall order. But
Are they doing more episodes this season? Do you know?
They haven't said anything like that. I can't imagine that they would. If they did, it would maybe be only like a couple, depending on how the timetable worked out or something like that. Especially since they're going to be doing the big 50th anniversary primetime special in February. That'll probably take up some of the normal
a bit of a chunk.
episode slots. Yeah. But yeah, so this is going to be a big milestone season. There's probably going to be a lot of special guests. There already are in this first episode that we'll get to here in a second. But before that, Nate, you've done some work rounding up some of the changes that happened since season 49.
Yeah, so let's first talk about the departures, because every season there are people that leave the show between cast members and writers. And so let's go over and I'd like to get your guys' feedback on some of the cast members that left. Punky Johnson, who joined the cast in 2020, announced her departure during the off season. So we've known about this for a little while. After a 4-year tenure, what are you guys thinking about Punky Johnson leaving? Do you think it's time? I mean, she got 4 seasons, didn't necessarily catch a huge audience there.
Yeah.
She was never a big kind of favorite, though I did feel like she was slowly building a little bit of an identity, but she never found her niche there.
Yeah, she seemed like she fit like a good bill as far as like playing certain characters and like helping fill out scenes where they needed certain archetypes, that kind of thing. But she didn't really have any famous characters. She had a couple fun moments at the Weekend Update desk
With Mikey Day, it'll still be one of my favorite.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it was a bummer to see her go, but like you can understand why she's not sticking around.
I could see, like, looking back, you go, okay, great comedian, terrible sketch performer or writer.
One of the
Because
things
you write for yourself to get on the show, and clearly that's just
She
not
never really did
that was
write
not
for
her
herself,
strong
no.
suit.
Yeah.
I get that. It's not to say she's not funny.
Right.
She's just not funny for SNL, and that's okay. So it was time for her to go for
Yeah.
sure, and probably a little bit overstayed her welcome.
One of the
honestly.
things that she
And I apologize, not overstayed her welcome, but like the idea that like if she was a comedian that was a good stand-up and then it just wasn't clicking, it's like, how did nobody be like, hey, it's just not working after
Right.
the second year?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. She the announcement came kind of surprisingly because she was asked during a Q&A over the summer at a stand-up show that happened, and that was when she had revealed that she wasn't coming back. And according to some of the people they were there, she had talked about being kind of miserable at the show, not unlike what Devin Walker talked about when we saw him.
When we were live with him,
She specifically mentioned some things about them apparently not wanting her to be so buff and maybe getting rid of her dreads and that kind of thing.
Yeah, not to be as much of a lesbian archetype, right?
That's really what it felt like, and that's something that you kind of expect from
You're reading
SNL at
between
this
the lines
point.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that kind of sucks, but like if you're feeling that pressure, then like you just don't want to
Yeah.
deal with it anymore.
But, and like good for her.
Yeah.
Like fuck that place. Go.
On a similar departure route,
Molly Carney left as well,
not
who
without
joined
as
the
much
cast.
animosity, it seemed, because they had a pretty nice farewell about it, and Punky
Send up on Instagram, right?
yeah, and Punky did too. Once she got a chance to actually talk about it, she was very nice and like appreciative and respectful.
And that's the thing. Punky Johnson in that moment says things, and
Right.
he goes, "Hey, let me think
Yeah.
for a little."
Molly Carney announced they were leaving, and that's one that I felt a little bummed by, because I feel like even though that they haven't made the same kind of dent in the way that Punky Johnson didn't, I felt like there was more potential there, and they were still kind of on the rise and figuring it out, because they did have some really good stand-up moments, and I think that they also had a more distinct comedic presence. They have a little bit of Chris Farley in them, but they also have a little bit of A.D. Bryant and Kate McKinnon too.
Because I saw, and again, this gets into the weeds a little bit with gender, but when Melissa McCarthy played Chris Farley, and there was a bit of a crossover there, you've got a naturally born female person that is transitioning, and that trans person is able to do so much if you let them.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that, like, again, same thing with Punky Johnson, like, hey, cut your dreads, don't be as buff.
Yeah.
I wonder how much that played for them, because Molly had there's like you just said, there's so much room for that, and there's so many different characters that they could play.
Yeah.
I wish I would have gotten to see that.
Well, especially because one of Molly's
And I apologize if that is like, I don't mean to be weird about like the whole Melissa McCarthy playing.
No.
Sorry, but it's just gender's. It's hard for me to. I'm a straight white male. I don't know what I'm doing.
One of Molly's best bits was when they played that lieutenant governor,
Yeah.
who was doing secret like grinder
It was
gay comments.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was hilarious. And
they were great.
if anything, it made them more diverse and able to play other characters, but at the same time, they struggled to find a niche and really latch on
And
to
I
like
do also wonder if it's a writing problem, right?
Yeah.
Punky Johnson clearly didn't write for herself. I'm not sure that Molly
did not usually either.
wrote for themselves either.
Yeah.
Like and again, that's stuff that I just don't think we'll ever really know. Like what, or maybe they did write and it just wasn't good. Like who knows, right? There's so many behind the scenes, and politics, I'm sure, play a role. There's so much going on there.
Yeah.
So probably the one that is the most confusing to me
Yeah.
was Chloe Trost.
That
was
joined the cast in
shocking.
2023. She
Had a
would not
breakout
return.
year.
From
me.
what we understand, asked not to return.
Yeah,
Oh.
that was the weirdest thing. Yeah, Chloe said this
Okay.
in her Instagram post as well, that she was not asked to return.
So that's the craziest thing in the world. Watching and maybe, okay, listen, we don't know. Again, maybe she's a bitch, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's really interpersonal dynamics that work. But if you're looking at what she did on screen, she was wonderful.
Especially for a freshman season.
Singing, like she fit in so well. She was across the board, kind of like first year. Wow.
Yeah.
So I just was so shocked.
Yeah, because
what she could do that was really, I think, important on this cast anyway, is people don't understand how much music plays and musical roles and musical numbers play a role in sketch comedy.
Especially
and
when
she has a voice and she can actually sing, and
if
so
you're
she can pull some of those off.
Talented and
which
can
is
really sing.
Really important.
It lends, even if you're playing it straight when you're singing, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you're
Cecily
so,
Strong
exactly.
was
I
the
just
architect
thought
for
that
this.
she was a breath of fresh air as far as the musicality, and for somebody to be asked not to return, there, like in my head, I'm like, well, okay, there must have been some interpersonal dynamics there.
Yeah. I do wonder what happened, because as a featured player, like you couldn't ask for a better debut. Like she had some prominent sketches,
Crazy good
some
stuff.
hilarious stuff that was like her own sense of humor.
Yeah.
The Timothy Chalamet Orphan Cassidy sketch comes to mind. That was hilarious. That was dark. It was weird. It was funny. And so yeah, I do wonder if maybe it was a thing where she wasn't getting along, maybe like with certain writers or something. But yeah, it was a bummer, because I would have liked to have seen more from her.
Yeah. And then a couple of writers, or three of the writers, are not returning either. Alex English was asked not to come back. We don't know why. After 3 seasons on the show, Vanessa Jackson, she was on seasons 47 through 49. She's gone as well. And then Gary Richardson, who has been a staple on the show since 2017. If you listen to our podcast, you know I try to do as much. We try to include the writers of the sketches when we can find it. And Gary Richardson is a pretty known writer on this, and he's gotten a lot of sketches. He's not coming back as well. It could be, though, because he's got other projects he wants to get done.
Sure.
You write on SNL for a couple seasons, and typically you can become a writer at other places, or you're starting to work on some other major projects.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the additions. We've got three new cast members coming on. Former Groundlings performer Ashley Padilla, stand-up comedian Emil Wachem. Is that how you pronounce that? Wachem?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I'm walking here.
Oh boy.
TikTok comedian and actress Jane Wickline. And so this is interesting, because Jane, her kind of claim to fame is not in one of the major sketch comedian troupes or
but she is part of a very famous live comedy show that's on TikTok called Staple View. So even though it's a different medium, it's still a similar background.
It feels like an evolution, though.
It does. It really does.
Of where comedians are being found, how they're cultivating a voice, how they're getting known, right? Yeah. And so she joined. And then we've got 3 new writers, Ali Levitin, Mas Perricone, and Carl Tart. Carl Tart is known for being a featured player on the 2016 Fox sketch show Party Over Here. He was also a writer on Mad TV. Now, Brad, Party Over Here was executive produced by what former SNL stars?
Party Over Here on Fox.
Sketch comedy show that was on Fox, that was executive produced by these former SNL stars.
Former SNL stars. I'm going to say it was executive produced by Andy Samberg and
Jason Sudeikis.
Seth Meyers.
The Lonely Island.
Oh, okay.
He was executive produced by Paul Scheer in The Lonely Island. Lasted for a season, and he was a writer and a performer on that sketch comedy show. And so he's got a little bit of SNL connections there. Ali Levitin, her dad is
Steve Levitan,
very famous comedy writer, known probably most predominantly for being
Modern Family
head writer and creator. But also has done quite a bit for herself as well. She co-wrote Molly Gordon's upcoming directorial debut, Small Parts. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Nepotism.
I do like Molly Gordon, though.
Nepotism.
And then Mas Perricone is a stand-up comedian and writer who has worked on the Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj.
Patriot Act.
To Beavis and Butthead reboot. The Other Two, which is one of Brad's favorite shows.
Hilarious.
And Velma. So Those
And then,
three new writers.
Yes, and then on top of that, we did have a few promotions. Marcelo Hernandez, Michael Longfellow, and Devin Walker are all regular cast members.
Which I sincerely still cannot believe after we witnessed Devin Walker.
Yeah, for listeners of the show, explain a little bit about what you're talking about there.
Devin Walker at a stand-up show in Chicago not that long ago was absolutely adamant that he was miserable at SNL.
Yeah.
Hated it. Said out loud, it would be a lot easier if I was a white guy. He had such disdain for the show, and I kept thinking, oh, this is either a guy who's going to quit, or once the producers or Lauren finds out that he's openly saying he hates himself and hates being there, like how can this tenure exist? But a lot of things can happen, when Devin comes back, sits down in New York and says,
because he was in this episode a lot.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it seems like he almost is reinvigorated because he has big roles in a lot of these sketches, and
none of them
like
were good, but
not his fault.
I know.
But yeah, so that's where we are going into season 50 of Saturday Night Live.
Can I ask you guys a question a little bit about season 50?
No.
Because I'm going to do it anyway. So we're all very excited about this season. It's new season.
I was.
Anyway.
Honestly, I was.
Even if it's season 47, we'd still be excited, or 51 or whatever. We get excited about SNL. But this is season 50. We've been talking about this season 50 for a couple of years now.
Since the inception of this dumb podcast, we've been talking about it.
Do you think it's going to meet our expectations, or could it meet our expectations? There's a lot.
I don't think that
riding
it
on
can
this.
meet anybody's
Well,
expectations
I think-
for what that is.
That's
think-
what I'm a little afraid of, Ben.
Well, here's the thing. I'm trying to keep my expectations in check because even though it's season 50 and there are bound to be big surprises and cool things that happen, it's still just another season of SNL. And the best and worst thing about SNL is that it is unpredictable as to like when it's going to be good, how good it's going to be, and how many bad things are going to be. There's always going to be bad things. There's going to be good things. There's going to be average things. That's still going to happen during this show, no matter what. It's probably going to feel a little more special because it's a milestone season, and I think that big primetime special they do in February is going to be a lot of fun, just like the 40th anniversary special was, which I loved. So I think that as long as we keep our expectations firmly in check, it's not going to be any more or less disappointing than any other given season of SNL. And to lead into our discussion about this season 50 premiere, I think it's also important to remember that historically, the season premieres of Saturday Night Live often are not great.
Yeah.
The writers and the cast are both rusty because they've been off for several months. They've been doing their own shit. They haven't been in the show's normal routine for a while. They're still getting their groove back. So the premiere usually isn't all that great. So I think it's fine that this episode wasn't fantastic, and we'll get into the specifics here in a second. And I don't think it bodes, any sort of negativity for how this season's going to go.
Correct.
No, that's fair. But at the same time, the political cold open should never be the best sketch of the show.
Hey,
I don't think it was-
happy. We should be happy that it was a decent political.
Yeah,
It was
the best political
We're
open they've
gonna
had in
get
a
into that
while.
little bit.
Of course.
I have one bit more of trivia for you. So our host on this episode, on episode 1, season 50, Gene Smart. All right. Have you guys watched Hacks yet?
I just finished the first season.
It's great.
Yeah,
I
it's
really
fantastic.
love it. But she kind of made a name for herself, or at least predominantly, or kind of majorly, that I heard of her anyway, was a show in the 90s called Designing Women. And this was a sitcom on CBS, I think.
Mhm.
Delta Burke.
Delta Burke was on there. And there was a former SNL star that also starred on Designing Women in the last 2 seasons of the show. Who was the former SNL star that starred in seasons 6 and 7? Here's another hint for you. She starred as Gene Smart's character. Her character's name was Charlene, as her sister.
What was the year of those seasons?
I'm going to guess
Well, I have so much information. Not that.
97 through
I mean,
99
I mean,
probably.
No, probably before that. Probably like 93.
I want to say like late 80s. Yeah,
Like,
or early
wait,
90s.
wait,
I
so-
think it started in the late 80s.
Oh,
went to
sorry.
the-
I thought you said Designing Women was 92.
I mean, Designing Women was like, I don't know. Designing Women is
I thought
old
that was an
enough to
80s
know
show.
that. I think it started in the 80s, but I
Yeah.
think it went till 90s, right? So hold on. Designing Women went from 86 to 93. So yeah. So it'd been like 92, 93.
93.
Yep, yep.
That means it's somebody from like the cast of the 80s or 1990.
I'm going to say, well, no, because if they're playing Gene Smart's sister, I'm going to say it's Jane Curtin.
Do you have a guess, Benjamin Konowitz?
I think that if it's Jan Hooks.
Oh, that's a very good guess, actually.
The winner? We ding ding ding. We have a winner.
Oh.
It is Ben Konowitz.
Yeah.
Boom.
Once you said it,
Jan
I was
Hooks.
like, oh, yeah, she absolutely seems like she could be Gene
Yeah,
Smart's
she
sister.
played Gene Smart's younger sister, Charlene, her younger sister's naive younger sister from Poplar Bluff, Missouri, who became a receptionist at Sugar Baker's after
Just
divorcing her
because
car
I love
salesman.
Jan Hooks.
Yep.
Never
it was
mess
a name
with
I
a
hadn't
sugar baker woman.
had not thought about for a while. So
There you go.
All right, we ready to get into this? Let's do it. Season 50, Episode 1, Harrison Trump Rallies Cold Open, written by Mike DeCenzo, Allison Gates, James Austin Johnson, Moss Perricone, Streeter Seidel, and Ken Sublet. A sketch featuring split rallies between Kamala Harris, played by Maya Rudolph. Welcome back, Maya. And Tim Waltz, played by Jim Gaffigan. Welcome to the show, Jim. Donald Trump, played by James Austin Johnson, and J.D. Vance, played by Bowen Yang, with Andrew Dismukes as David Muir, Andy Samberg as Doug Emhoff, and Dana Carvey doing his best Joe Biden. This was really bringing out all the guests.
Yeah.
We had a lot there.
They had a lot of catching up to do after missing a summer of nonsense.
And listeners of the show, if you're new to the show, we're so glad to have you. But listeners of the show will know that usually we are not a huge fan of the political cold opens. Not because we don't agree with the politics, not because of any of that. It's just they're usually pretty lazy. They're just not great sketches, particularly for the rest of the episode. Are also kind of, there's a little bit of logistical problems with us as well. We tend to believe that some people judge the whole episode based on a cold open. And so when it's not good, people think the whole episode isn't good or they don't give it a chance.
They tune in to see what SNL said about this. Oh, same drivel. Click it off, and now SNL's bad. And it's like, we know that it's so much better than that. If you just stick it up to Weekend Update, just watch up till Weekend Update. I promise, it's good.
Let me say this. Maya Rudolph is fantastic as Kamala
Of
Harris.
course. Of course.
Dana Carvey is great as Joe Biden.
But
Go on.
Jim Gaffigan is incredible.
I was wondering who they were going to get.
Incredible.
I was wondering who they were going to get.
Yeah.
And he was
A
fantastic.
vision. It's Tim
yeah.
Waltz. I mean, perfect casting.
I-
And
all
now
of
to be humble, Reddit, you wrote an article.
I will say that Jim Gaffigan was on my list of the 5 people who I thought should potentially play Tim Waltz, along with
Particularly because he looks like him, right? There's a sense of like
Well,
Midwestern.
Steve Martin passed.
Steve Martin passed. But yeah, Jim Gaffigan definitely looks like him. My only hesitation of hiring him is he's never hosted.
Yep.
He's not known for doing impressions.
Exactly. That's why I was a little worried.
And he's not really known for sketch comedy. So it didn't seem like it was
But
the best choice.
he, besides stand up, he's a great actor.
He is.
And that's why I was so happy.
And he is fantastic in the role.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that they got him to do it. I hope we get
nailed
to
it.
see more of him because I felt like it was too brief. I would have loved to watch more.
And I think that you're gonna,
Yeah.
right? Like just like Andy Samberg and him, we're gonna see them pop up for sure.
yeah.
What'd you think of Andy Samberg?
I mean, it's it's Andy Samberg doing like
it's an easy win.
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
let's say what it is. It's an easy win.
he doesn't have to do much of an impression to play Doug
I
Emhoff.
did.
That's what I'm saying is, do we really need him to
But-
do that then?
No, I liked it, but I loved the thing that I didn't think about is when hopefully Kamala Harris wins, it's the first husband, right?
Right.
So he's like, so this year's Christmas theme will be Hanukkah.
Yeah, that was
Which
one of
was
my
it's
favorite
a
jokes.
great
Yep.
joke,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
And
so
you want
funny.
someone like Samberg doing a joke
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
too,
exactly,
because
exactly.
Samberg is very Jewish.
Yes, it's just so funny to me that like I've never really thought about that aspect of it. Like,
Yeah.
normally the first lady like does decorations and has like causes, and like what's Doug supposed to do?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Like, is he gonna garden? Like, I don't know.
I
It's
hope
just
so.
weird. I hope he does. I hope he leans in wholeheartedly and just just has Make-A-Wish kids and design. And maybe he does decorate for Hanukkah.
But yeah, and so this was this was decent for a political cold open.
Absolutely.
It was not worthy of 13 minutes.
It was long because of they're introducing every cameo, right? I get
sure, but like that's it's like you don't need it to be that long though. I mean, it's just that's 3 sketches worth basically. You can have 3 sketches in the place of that cold open.
But to be fair, in this episode, I didn't want 3 more sketches.
Well, we'll get to this when we get to it, but there are 2 sketches that didn't make the cut that should have made the cut.
Very fair.
So
that would have changed my mind about the episode.
I also think that SNL knew, right, that this was the thing people were waiting for.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they were trying to give
milk it.
And this has become a trend since the Will Ferrell, George W. Bush days. You know, the debate sketches, especially
people
the political stuff.
People watch.
They became huge for cold opens. They became the real draw at the top of the show. And so like that's been a staple for a long time now. So you just deal with it. You know, that's just where we're at.
Fair. Very fair.
All right, moving on. Monologue by Gene Smart, hosting for the first time. Actress Gene Smart talks about hosting the season premiere of SNL 50, how she likes being in New York, and her career before singing "I Happen to Like New York." Do we want to back up just a little bit here and talk a little bit about the bumpers? You know, the cast.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we should absolutely talk about the opening credits because these opening credits are cool as hell.
Freaking awesome.
They're super.
We usually don't talk about them.
But
awesome.
These are really cool. Like they're super stylish. I love how it weaves back and forth in and out of sets on Studio 8H stages,
video work here.
and into New York. Like it's a great transition between like what you love about SNL, what you love about New York. They look incredible, and
the appropriate use of slow-mo.
Yeah.
To highlight the actor.
Yeah.
For a brief second, I love that, and then it right back into either the set or New York. I love it. Yeah.
And the cast is having fun too,
Yeah,
which I love.
wonderful.
Like, there was an energy to it.
yeah, this one more than the previous one, it really felt like it leaned into like each of their own personal energies. You know, like having Sarah Sherman like driving the bus like that was great.
Chloe Trost doing her dancing, or not
Who?
Chloe Trost. Sorry, Chloe Feynman.
Chloe Sevigny.
Chloe Feynman having a lot of fun in her dance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was just, there was a lot of personality.
I also
in
really
each
like
of
that they
these.
gave Kenan Thompson Times Square, like putting him everywhere. It's like, he earned that.
He earned that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
you
the
get 20 seasons. He's 21 now, I think.
21 seasons
in. He gets that. But
Hey, his time on SNL can drink.
But yeah, I watched and I texted you guys. I was like, man, the new SNL opening credits are fucking cool.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
All right, moving on then to monologue. What did you guys think of Gene Smart's monologue?
I think my favorite bit was when she said, "Oh, there's my piano. Where did I leave it?"
That was funny. I like how she all of a sudden said, "Yeah, lesbians really like me."
Yeah,
which is 100% true. But I liked it, and but like not because it was particularly funny. It just had this nice, endearing.
Her song was kind of endearing.
A little
bit,
like,
a
little
it was
poignant,
a little bit,
you know.
just a very nice opening, like just like singing that like about loving New York, and just it was just very sweet. I just really liked that.
Sweet. There was a joke she had too that I laughed at. This was the first Saturday. You know, I've been wanting to do SNL since it started. This just happened to be the first Saturday that
I was
Yeah.
available,
which I thought was a great.
making her
little-
like big boy it a little bit. You know,
yeah, it's a good joke.
the trash turns to. She said the trash
Yeah.
changes colors or whatever, like the leaves.
Yeah.
That was great.
It felt.
Oh, I love that. She said too. I used to think that I didn't know it was live because I thought it stood for Saturday Night Live Laughs, and then I watched it and I was like, well, that can't be right.
You know what? It felt like. I'm a fan of the show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Gene Smart felt Mrs. Maisel a little bit in that moment
Yeah.
to me. Like,
And,
it felt
I mean, honestly-
very New York, very kind of a little bit biting, but also
Yeah.
sweet, like in a way that was female comedian from yesteryear.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
and that's kind of the
character she plays on Hacks. Right?
yeah, like to
Yep.
an extent, like
Yeah.
just a more rude, blunt version of that kind of character.
yeah, and so it was.
I was fine with that cold open, or sorry, that monologue, just because, as you know, like I talk about, like, oh, is the host going to be comfortable, and what will that say about the show?
Right.
And Gene Smart obviously been doing this a long time. She took her appropriate time. She didn't rush. She wasn't nervous.
Yeah.
Or if she was, she hit it very well. I thought, okay, at least this is a steady host that's going to do something, or at least maybe take some chances because she's established.
Yeah.
and it felt authentic to her, right? Which is, I think, the task of
That's
a good
important.
monologue is to feel authentic to the actual host.
I liked it.
All right, moving on.
$100,000 pyramid.
Yeah,
right?
100,000. So that's so funny. And I'm like,
Numbers.
that's a lot of numbers.
I love that. I looked over at Nate. He's like, "How do I say this?"
I was actually counting the
$1 billion
zeros.
hexagons.
$100,000 pyramid. Michael Strahan, played by Devin Walker, hosts a game show with celebrity guests. The Hawk Tua girl, Haley Welsh, played by Chloe Feynman.
Brad,
Chimp
your
Crazies,
favorite.
Tanya Haddix, played by Gene Smart. Bad Bunny, played by Marcelo Hernandez. And North Carolina Governor Mark Robinson, played by Kenan Thompson. It was Emil Wakim's first appearance as a cast member, playing the Turkish shooter. Ben, what did you think of this one?
Let's shoehorn everything over the summer into this right now.
I was never more quickly embarrassed because of a
Oh
sketch
well, first of all, hold on.
than this one.
You hate so much that the Hawk Tua thing is still a thing. Honestly, if you can take that honest hatred, if you can take that to the side, do you still feel the same?
Half of this sketch is solid. I honestly think
Which half?
The Mark Robinson stuff is pretty funny.
Because that just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Crazy shit is like, hey, let's shoehorn in. Like,
Yeah.
The Turkish, that was an Olympics thing.
It was
What the fuck are you doing?
Like, I was already gone by that point, like, because of the Hawk Tua stuff and because of the Chimp Crazy thing. Like, I don't know what we're doing. Chimp
What are we
Crazy,
doing here,
Chimp
guys?
Crazy's
What are we
not
doing?
Tiger King. It wasn't that big.
I don't even know what it was.
I don't even know what it is. What is it?
It's a documentary on Max that follows a woman who is like obsessed with like these chimpanzees that she has. But it's the
shoehorning is just so
yeah,
terrible.
it's this happened several times this episode too, where they clearly like kept stuff from the summer and they're like, well, let's do this and let's do this, and it's like it's so old, like it's over. Like Hawk Tua was over.
I calm down.
The same week, and like sure, her podcast is super popular right now, and I'll give her credit for having the title Talk Tua is fucking great. That's a great podcast title for a stupid girl.
I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not. It's currently trending, like as of today, like behind Joe Rogan
the
and one other,
third,
the third
most popular
podcast.
Yeah, it's insane.
Good for her.
Good for her. I hope
So,
I hope she gets a lot of money tricking stupid people into thinking she has something to say.
But also, that means that she is still relevant, and so is the guy from North Carolina. Everything else, what are we doing?
Yeah, it just, and it felt so forced. And I, honestly, at the very beginning, I was like, oh, sweet, we're gonna do a fun celebrity impression cavalcade. It's not going to use the usual Family Feud framework. It's going to be cool. And then they did this, and it's just like, fuck, man.
Like,
What did
it's
you
a
guys
wasted
think of
opportunity.
Devin Walker's Michael Strahan?
It's
fine. Yeah, it's fine. It was. I mean, it worked for what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
He wasn't the star of the sketch anyway, you know. But Kenan as Mark Robinson, that was really funny. Marcelo Hernandez has a great Bad Bunny impression.
But what can you do with Bad Bunny, really? I mean,
Right.
like, he says hi, and that's about all you can do.
Yeah,
right? Like,
you know. This sketch was just not good. I was so disappointed with it, and it was just a piss poor way to start.
know
episode
when
Especially
one.
when
sketches-
it's the leadoff sketch,
Yeah.
right? Oh, I'm like, okay, game show. This is familiar territory. They can crush us. And honestly, like you, I'm like, oh, cool. This is going to be an impression off. What a great, solid, easy thing for them to do that will just crush. And instead, they went this route. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
You know when a sketch isn't great when the writers have not come forward online and said, this is my sketch.
Just say it's written by Hawk Tua.
All right, moving on. Pre-tape. Spirit Halloween, written by Shooter Seidel, Mikey Day, Mike DeCenzo, and Jake Nordwin. This is an ad for the one store that will always be there, Spirit Halloween. It features the first appearances of Ashley Padilla and Jane Wickline as cast members. I liked this pre-tape. It was not innovative. It was not doing much, but I laughed still because it caught onto a cultural phenomenon that happens, particularly where we're at in the Rust Belt. We've got a lot of empty retail space, and there's going to be 6 Spirit Halloweens within a 20-mile radius.
100%.
And so there was enough to this that it was observational comedy. It was not groundbreaking. There was nothing. I'm not saying this is great, but it made me laugh enough.
It did. It made me laugh. Here's the thing. I felt like I was having deja vu. I felt like this was so cookie cutter that I've seen
very
this
cookie
before.
Yep.
Right? Like it's just, this is very paint by nose. Not that it's not a bad sketch. It's not. But I've definitely seen it. It's just, it seems a little over the plate. A little
No, I
easy.
mean, yeah, they've done.
I still liked it though.
Yeah, they've done formulas like this before, but like, you know, it works. You know, it's the same
does.
reason they do game show sketches and talk show sketches over and over
Yeah,
again.
I did not mind it at all.
Yeah, I actually thought it was really funny. I think I liked it even more so because they kept an earnest tone that made it seem like it was this like sentimental, charitable, like, look how much we care about you. But yeah, and we'll be there and we'll help you after 6 weeks, and then we're gone.
That's kind of what I liked about it is they had a theme that they were sticking with and a joke that they were coming back to.
Yeah.
And it worked for me in that regard. So I thought it was creative enough for a pre-tape. I enjoyed it. I laughed. I actually sent it to a friend as hey, this is a good sketch.
And especially because we're recording this podcast from the Midwest, where Spirit Halloween is literally everywhere.
Yeah.
We are their bread and butter.
I'm not sure if on October 20th, if you could take a poll, do you think there are more Spirit Halloweens or Dollar Generals in the United States?
It's got probably Dollar Generals.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, Spirit Halloween.
Spirit Halloween, the Pepsi to their Coke, though.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
All right, moving on. A textbook writer played by Jean Smart meets with publishing executives to discuss an issue with her math textbook. Can I get something out of the way here? I did not understand what the first joke was.
Okay.
And Jess, we don't wear T-shirts.
I had this written down last night because Ashley, we watched this together, and after the sketch was over, she goes, "Why did they make that first joke?"
Yeah, it feels like they were trying to break the ice with something that was just funny right off the bat, but it felt so weird. Like, it landed to dead silence.
Exactly. And so I think, and I told Ashley at the time, I was like, I think what they're trying to do is to show right off the bat that the Scholastic people are
business,
buttoned up and serious.
Yeah.
But it didn't work at all in that way. It was like, oh, they're setting something up for later.
It was super awkward. But part of me also wonders, though, if it was a logic thing, too, because technically that shirt she's wearing is not a T-shirt.
No,
that's a blouse.
Exactly.
It's a short sleeve shirt, but it's not
it was so fucking weird.
Do you think that's what it was?
It just made Ego Wodom's character seem like a bitch.
It's Ego Wodom, but like
leave that in. You never cut when Brad's wrong.
Nate can't Lego
he
Ego.
actually edits that. So.
Shit, I forgot about that.
So
Nate can't Lego Ego.
Well, now we're leaving all this in. So,
now
good
people
job,
can
buddy.
actually hear what we talk about. So I wonder if it was supposed to be to set Ego up as, this kind of bad bitch boss
bossy,
kind of. Yeah.
I really did think that it, because I didn't notice the blouse thing. I just thought they're gonna, after I watched the whole sketch, they tried to set it up as a staunchy kind of like buttoned up
just
type
dead
atmosphere.
in its tracks.
It just didn't work.
Did not
It's
work.
like the
weird
air
opening.
got sucked out of the room.
And then that, honestly, that opening line made the sketch harder to get into.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a number of issues in the sketch because this was the sketch I felt like Jean Smart faltered the most. Like,
sure.
She mumbled some lines. There was a couple punchlines I feel like she totally fumbled that like were supposed to be funny, and I was like, what was that?
She had a lot to do though.
She did. And I do think that she made up for it because when she was reading the math problems,
that was funny.
She used her voice, which is a very signature trademark voice, very well. Like, that's the kind of sultry voice you want reading romance novels.
The best of it was when the entire diatribe almost of like the romance, and then at the end she's like, "What's 4 minus 6?"
Yeah, that
was the funniest part. I laughed hard at that.
Yeah,
because that's silly as shit. And I love that it fits the premise so well.
Yeah.
There was less of that throughout the rest of the sketch, though.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't really go for it.
No.
I didn't think, right?
Am I
wrong?
They tried to do a visual joke, too, where, like,
the book cover, I couldn't read
see what was on the cover.
And honestly, that's logistics. Like, she just didn't turn it enough, or they didn't cut the camera too, or whatever. So that didn't work. But also, I just feel like a lot of the stuff they were going for was like, there's so much here. There's so much to chew on.
Yeah.
And they're nibbling around the edges. Like, really go for it, right? This is Saturday Night Live. You can be edgy, but they just, I don't know. Like, it was just really weird that they didn't really go for it. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, we don't usually talk about the musical guests here, but Hacks co-star, Jean Smart's Hacks co-star, Hannah Einbender helped introduce Jelly Roll after the sketch.
Indeed.
Who is her mother?
Lorraine Newman from the original cast of Saturday Night Live in 1975.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? So she comes back. She gets her time at SNL as well, as her mom did. Maybe she'll eventually host as well.
She should, because she's great on Hacks as well.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And let Jim Gaffigan host, too, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, as Tim Waltz.
Bargatze's coming back next week already.
Oh, yeah.
Nate Bargatze.
I prefer the
Back at you.
Bargatze, which is actually how we pronounce it in Italy.
Bargatze.
You're not from Italy.
Well, his first name is Nate. I think he knows how to pronounce last
I think
names.
I know.
Yeah.
You idiot.
Nathaniel Bargatze.
Mm-hmm.
All right, weekend update with Colin Jost and Michael Che. Weekend update anchors Colin Jost and Michael Che tackle the season premiere. Week's biggest news, like SNL kicking off its 50th season. New York City's mayor Eric Adams' indictments, and scientists saying an asteroid will become Earth's mini moon. Ben, can you do us a favor and explain to our new listeners and maybe just refresh our old listeners what the pedometer is?
Yes. Much like the tomato.
What?
Tomato?
Just say tomato meter, man.
Tomato? Rotten Tomatoes has a score.
Tomato meter.
Tomato meter.
It's the tomato
meter. Actually, you should have pronounced it. I'm so sorry. It's very Italian.
I know how. All right.
Yeah.
Bargatze.
Rotten Tomatoes has a score
tomato
0 to 100% on how good a movie is. Brad has the pedometer, and this is a very nuanced score of how well Colin Jost and Michael Che interact with each other. And through a little bit of knowledge now from last season, we know that the better the jokes are, it does actually improve the pedometer a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But by and large, it is literally just the if there's a side eye, if there's a bit of a laugh off camera, if there's a little bit of nudging and winking and nodding.
It's about the camaraderie between Jost and
mainly.
Che.
But you did say
there's a little bit,
but the quality of Weekend Update from them overall
probably, in my opinion, sways it up to 10%.
It is the worst of scientific meters of all scientific
horrible.
Meters. Yeah, because
this
there's
is just
no consistency.
his gut feeling, and and this is me saying it with a big gut. He's got a big gut.
And so, Brad, will you please take out your phone and then put it down, because we don't trust what you say.
So 0 to 100.
0 to 100.
How strong?
And here's the thing: is you
was the
also
pedometer?
have to understand you got to leave some room for growth here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm going to go first here. All right, I'm going to pick. I didn't think this was a great showing. I thought some of the jokes were fine, but I didn't think it was a great showing.
You want to say it at the same time, like with 1, 2, 3, say it?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 65.
70.
Wow.
What'd you think?
Okay. I gave it a 78.
Room to grow.
Wow.
We said.
There's room to grow.
Wow.
First of all,
Explain
yeah,
explain yourself, buddy.
For
the listener, by
our
the way,
listeners have turned off the podcast.
Livid.
Right now.
Livid.
For all the stale jokes that have been made throughout this episode so far that dealt with stuff from the summer, Weekend Update does have the excuse of catching up on headlines, and they're kind of allowed to do that. So they did have a little bit of fun with stuff like that.
This is just Brad's. He says this.
This
Right?
is a small part.
He says
because I actually
you just get to say that.
I think that this Weekend Update was actually pretty good, and
It was fine. Fine.
There was some solid interaction between Jost and Che because
How, where, when, why?
Che specifically makes a joke at Jost's expense about the name of his stand-up special. That's that's racist.
Yeah.
And Colin reacts to that, and they have a little bit of just back and forth between it.
78%. though?
78.
It was one little joke.
Here's the thing. They had a good friendship throughout this one. Like you could just it was palpable. They were having fun with each other.
I think the excitement of a new episode got to your head.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that honestly, the show was so bad going into Weekend Update. He's like, okay, here we go.
Weekend
And I'll
Update
give you that.
Weekend
I'll give you
Update did
that.
feel like a
I'll
breath of
give you
fresh
that.
air.
It's much
It
better
woke
than-
me up a little bit. I didn't love. Well, we'll get into the side characters.
My favorite part was Che doing the joke about Asian drivers, and then
Oh, my God.
and Jost's reaction is like, and he just goes, "It's the '90s, baby."
He said it twice.
He did.
He brought
And
that
I
back.
loved it.
Loved yeah. No, Michael Che is the most like Norm Macdonald we've had since Norm Macdonald. And it's not even
and
close.
he lives for the growth.
He
and I love
loves it.
And I loved the joke at Joe Biden's expense too when they were talking about it's like, yeah, but if Democrats want to assassinate a presidential candidate, they're pretty good at it.
Oh, that's great. That was really good.
Well, and as somebody that has been saying for a long time that you wish SNL would attack the Democrats more, this had to
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel good for you.
I think that we need to just give in to the right.
All right.
both morally and politically.
I mean, Brad, he refers to her as Kamala Harris.
Yeah, exactly.
Kamalama ding dong.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Weekend update bit. New York City Mayor Eric Adams on his federal indictments, written by Devin Walker, August White, and Will Stephen. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, played by Devin Walker, stops by a weekend update to discuss his mayoralship and federal indictments. Now, sometimes SNL does this where they get very New York-centric, right? Not
Sure.
that this wasn't a big story, but this story doesn't impact any of us other than people in New York.
Was Devin Walker in any sketch between the $100,000 pyramid and now? Because if not, I feel like he didn't have to change his bald cap and gap tooth. And so I thought about that when I saw Eric Adams. Like, oh, he just didn't change.
Well, no, Michael Strahan's not bald,
Okay, sorry. So you take
Yeah.
the wig off.
and I think that he did have
Okay.
a beard.
So the
as well.
teeth were the same.
I
Because
think
there was a
that
gap. There's a little gap.
I'm pretty sure Devin Walker actually doesn't he also have?
Oh, maybe he does.
Yeah.
Maybe, oh shit. Now I feel bad.
Who's the other former SNL star, cast member that did Eric Adams?
Chris Red.
Chris Red, correct.
There you go. This was fine. You know, Devin Walker was good in it. Very, very New York centric.
Yeah. I get it.
I did like the opening where when like he was like talking to Che and he's like, a couple of New York legends, and
So-
Che's like,
Yep.
whoa.
Yep.
That was the best part
That
of
was
this.
the
Yeah.
best part.
Where
Yep.
he's trying to rope Che in and
Yeah.
Che like, whoa. It's almost like, you know, remember we were at that Diddy party and he's like, hey. I was there. That was when this was at its best.
Yeah.
When it was at its worst or whatever, it was basically like, well, okay, let's get back to Chase stuff because
Yeah.
this isn't working for me.
Yeah, but
It's whatever.
But like honestly, I do want to compliment Devin Walker
Yes.
like getting such a spotlight in this episode after we saw him and that it seemed like he was miserable. Whatever happened, maybe he's reinvigorated. Maybe he feels like he's going for it. You know,
Because I would like to say like, he did his job very well as
Yeah.
Michael Strahan,
He seemed
and he did a
confident.
very good job here.
Yeah.
He didn't flub any lines. He
Exactly.
he was what he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he helped co-write these, right?
Yeah.
And this is a
That's
secret
huge.
for a lot of cast members.
Yeah.
Yeah, write your shit.
Yeah, write your stuff.
So
I mean,
good for you, Devin Walker. We hope you're happy.
Yes.
And that sounded
That
really
sounded
shitty.
really mean. I hope you're
I hope
happy.
you're happy, motherfucker. No, I really hope you're happy.
All right, weekend update. Baby hippo Moo Dang on Fame, written by Bo and Yang and Will Stephen. Moo Dang, played by Bo and Yang, stops by Weekend Update to discuss her newfound fame with a shout out to the SNL costumers who created an incredible costume for Bo and Yang.
I'm sorry. It's a shout out to the hose handler.
Yeah, for real.
This is amazing. I loved this.
Well, first of all, do you guys love Mudang as much as I do?
I've never even heard of this.
Are you serious?
I've never seen
don't
it.
know who
I mean, now
You don't know who Mudang is?
I mean, I get
Stop!
it.
Don't do that
There's-
thing.
there's-
Don't
No,
do that
I'm
thing.
gonna. I want only.
Don't do that
No,
thing.
It's gonna be
You do
hippo.
this thing.
no. Only
you
because
do
no.
this thing where you're like,
I
you
say-
don't know who this thing is.
No, but I say
Nobody
this.
does.
But that's the thing is, I say this because I hate that you're missing out on this. Mudang is this absolutely adorable, hilarious
Yeah,
baby hippo.
I just saw Bo and Yang as her.
No, but you
I
don't-
get
Yeah,
it.
we know it now.
I get it.
but no, you don't though because
Yeah, they're throwing shellfish at her.
But you need to see because like there's a way that Mudang moves so chaotically where like if they capture still photos of Mudang as he's like freaking out. Sorry. Oh, geez,
Don't
Mudang.
misgender the hippo.
When Mudang freaks out,
It
there
is a hippo, right?
yes, there are great photos of this hippo who is like looks like she's on the run all the time, like with the mouth wide open, like ah, and like she is hilarious and adorable and always biting stuff, always biting the handler.
That's amazing.
It's you need to go. You'll want to follow Mudang
Okay,
forever.
fair enough.
Adorable.
I do know who Chaperone is, though.
Also an adorable hippo. That sounds like an insult to
I was just
Chaperone.
saying.
But
I was actually waiting because I thought maybe we gotta cut that. I thought maybe you would say that.
No, but you are the very thing she's talking about online, by the way.
of course. But no. It's only because Chaperone sounds just as ridiculous of a name as Mudang does.
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, yeah, I will send you guys some Mudang videos.
All right.
So you can be on this. But
I'm
but
Mudang.
man,
I'm
if
Mudang excited.
Mudang was so great, why haven't you shared it? We
Yeah.
have an ongoing text thread.
to be
the three
fair,
of
I
us.
really don't
We are
share
friends
a
in
lot of
real life.
Instagram stuff anyway. So.
Yeah, well, that's your fault.
By the
I
way,
share it all the time. By the way.
Yeah, let's take this offline a little bit. That
I do share that a lot.
I have started a Instagram thread with the three of us.
I noticed.
You guys have not shared a single freaking thing.
Okay, is that
you
why?
know?
Is that why the podcast shows up now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because
here's
I'm
the
not
thing.
joking. I went to go send something and it showed up, and I was like, "Why is Instagram
Why-
doing this?"
why-
I'm not joking. I thought it was Instagram fucking with me, and therefore I was not going to click.
No,
it.
it's Nate. He started a new thing.
Perfect way for you to send us a Mudang
Yeah.
You're gonna get a bunch from now, and you're gonna regret it.
Why would I regret it? You said it was great.
It is, but I'm gonna do it so much you're gonna fucking hate Mudang now.
Well, that took a turn. Honestly,
So what did you guys
were
think?
so excited.
No,
what did you guys think as
I
Bowen
love
Yang
this so
as
much.
Mudang?
I love this so much.
This is the kind of thing that Bowen Yang is perfect for. He's doing something he's done countless times before of playing this like sassy, upset, offended version of
way
whatever.
he does it.
Yeah, it was
It's
hilarious.
just different.
And the physical comedy that came with him eating the hose
Oh
water
my God.
was unbelievable. Like I couldn't believe he kept taking it in the face because he had his mouth wide open, just and it was amazing.
It was amazing.
And also, I love that they do this. He could have done this with Michael Che, but they always do these physical ones where they're going to get wet or they're going to right by Colin Jost.
Yeah.
What was the?
And he has to deal with the mess of it all.
And I don't remember, but it was one of the funniest things that happened. Colin Jost had to deliver a line.
Oh, it
and
was.
he put his head down on the desk because it was so silly or
Yeah,
ridiculous.
and he'd missed his line,
Yeah.
but then
Bowen
said he's like Colin, your wig, and Colin goes, oh my wig.
That was so good because he clearly got hit by the water.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's clearly improv. Holy shit, I laughed hard.
It was really
Yeah.
funny. If this was a full on proper sketch, this was one of the best things of the night
Yeah,
for sure.
it was great.
All right, moving on. I Love Lucy, written by Jake Norbin, Mike DeCenzo, and Cara O'Sullivan. A television host, played by Bowen Yang, takes a look back on a groundbreaking comedy that changed television. An actress, played by Jean Smart, does not do well in the pilot of I Love Lucy. It also stars Marcelo Hernandez as Desi Arnaz, Chloe Feynman, and James Austin Johnson.
I gotta say, one of my favorite mini punchlines that happens on SNL is when they do these little side descriptors of whatever faux show they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one, when Bowen Yang says, you're watching CNN's History of a Sitcom, which is probably on because you're in the hospital room of your parents.
The only show that's available when you're visiting your parents' hospital room.
Yeah.
I laughed hard at that and nothing else.
Oh, I disagree.
There was some good things
Oh,
here.
Yeah.
no, guys.
No.
No. You're both very wrong.
I particularly enjoyed this because Gene Smart's delivery is great. The line that especially got me was when Ricky comes in and he says something and she just goes, "Are you gay?"
Yes. The way she delivered that line was freaking hilarious.
It was
How did
perfect.
you not laugh at that
That
one?
saved it from being
Are
utterly
you
terrible.
gay?
Yeah.
But it just seems like there's a decent premise here, but it was just like...
No,
So
I
you're
do agree.
100%
Yeah,
right
it does
there.
not meet its full potential. There's something better here, and it feels like it. I wonder if it got cut down.
It's just... because the things they left in were like, why? You guys are... Again, man, I hate it because I'm not a comedy writer, but there's got to be some...
No.
Pulling out a gun and...
No,
just
so
whatever.
there was a couple lines there, right?
Yeah.
Particularly the one that Brad just talked about that made me laugh. Marcelo Hernandez does a great Desi Arnaz. He's doing his job there.
And it could have been
a
a little stilted
Gene
because Gene
Smart-
Smart's delivery here and there was a little off.
I don't disagree.
There was some bad camera stuff going on too.
So,
but
again, I don't want to blame the writers because maybe in rehearsal it's like when that's perfect and they're running through it.
no,
the timing
I
is
think there
hilarious.
was something there that
I'm
was
like,
missing.
I just don't get it.
But I think the bones of this were funny.
I also
Yeah.
think that maybe their choice to end it kind of like Fred Armisen's "Ay Dios mío," like with Ricky, just kind of it just ending it that way every time was just too easy. Maybe I don't know.
No, I understand your qualms with that. It worked for me for the most part. I do think that it didn't quite live up to how great it could have been. But I like the framework. I like the concept of just putting an actress in there who is more dramatic and not a natural comedian. And I even like the self-awareness of the end framework too, where it says, well, as we all know, the show ended up starring Lucille Ball, which makes a lot more sense because the show is called I Love Lucy, and the two stars of the show were married.
Yeah, that actually. So the bookends here were the best part. To
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
So yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I think it's better than you give it
Yeah,
credit.
I agree with you though, Brad. When I was watching, I'm like, you're almost there on this sketch, but it wasn't fully there.
I think that I just needed Reese to what?
Yeah, maybe that.
Always
would help.
miss Reese to what?
All right, moving on. Charlie XCX talk show written by Sudie Green, Bowen Yang, Chiara O'Sullivan, and Jimmy Fowley. Charlie XCX, played by Bowen Yang, hosts the Talk show with Troy Sivan, played by Sarah Sherman, and guest Suzanne Barch, played by Jean Smart. Caitlin Collins, played by Chloe Feynman, and Jasmine Crockett, or Representative Jasmine Crockett, played by Ego Wodem.
I'm gonna let you guys talk about this one.
I
I'm just gonna
did
take
More
it
like
as
love
Charlie
this.
XC next.
I will let you talk about this. I don't want to talk. It was something. It was one of the worst things I've seen on SNL.
There was not a lot of
I hated
redeemable
this.
about
Yeah,
it.
this was such a bummer, and like similar to the $100,000 pyramid sketch, it was such old stuff. Like the entire Charlie XCX vibe, the entire Brat Summer thing, literally a summer gag. And like I get that there's some things that are so big you want to capitalize them, but this is not it.
And Jasmine Crockett, I am a C-SPAN watcher. I am a political nerd. I get that 90% of the country doesn't, and so
Because
it's like,
that one thing happened months ago.
it's like,
Yeah.
guys, come off Twitter a little bit. Like I'm not even joking. Like you're extreme. The writers seem to be extremely online, and I get
Yeah.
it. But there's a lot of people who don't, and so make your comedy a little bit.
That's- I
more
think-
broad,
And
I think.
but here's the thing: it doesn't need to be super broad. Like we're not doing 2.5 Men here.
No,
you just need to do
but
stuff.
you got to play to the cheap seats.
You have to
a little bit more, honestly.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
You really do, though.
Yeah,
Like it's not like when you're that hyper niche, it gets weird.
yeah, exactly. I think the one saving grace was I did like Sarah Sherman's delivery.
abs.
Well, I mean, she just looked funny with the abs, but also the way no,
Yeah, are you lying?
no.
Are you telling the truth? No.
But yeah, otherwise awful sketch,
Ugh.
just bad. And like I feel bad because Bowen Yang clearly doing a good job having fun playing Charlie XCX, but the
Which
sketch
I couldn't tell you what Charlie X. I couldn't even tell you if this is a good impression or a bad.
it
impression.
is a good impression.
Because I know
know.
nothing about Charlie XCX.
Yeah.
Better impression: Bowen Yang as Charlie XCX, Bowen Yang as JD Vance.
Charlie XCX. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Also, do you think Bowen Yang had some surgery, some work done on his face?
No, he's Asian.
Jesus Christ!
I think he had a little bit of Botox. That's my theory. I don't know that, but I
Well,
think
I don't
so.
think
Just
so.
he's attractive.
Yeah, he's just a handsome young man.
I'm just saying. I think there wasn't a wrinkle there this year. There wasn't even a wrinkle.
That's just good
Um,
lighting.
How old is Bowen Yang?
30,
Is that it?
I'm gonna say 32.
I'm guessing.
Is he? I thought he was like more like 36.
Hey, Nate. How old's Bowen Yang?
He is 33.
Ooh, I win.
Well, with the Botox, he looks 30.
That's what I'm saying. All right, moving on to, I'm going to guess Ben's favorite sketch, Real Housewives of Santa Fe.
Just
Dinner.
because Heidi Gardner was in it.
The Real
And then I-
Housewives of
and I
Santa
paused
Fe, played by Gene Smart, Heidi Gardner, Edgar Wodem, Chloe Feynman, Sarah Sherman, and Ashley Padilla have lunch at a Mexican restaurant to clear the air. I thought this was terrible as well.
Oh yeah, seriously, just terrible. And it seemed I wonder if it happened to do better in dress for whatever reason.
It did not work at all. And
Yeah.
I will say this though. Maybe I'm not the audience because I've never watched a Real Housewives
Well, but here's
show
the thing
in my
though.
life.
I don't think any of the comedy really comes from the Real Housewives of Santa Fe setup. Like,
course not.
It's
supposed to be.
yeah, it's the backdrop for the larger physical gag,
And
which is Dismuke struggling with the fajitas plates.
and I do respect and admire how hard he was working.
Yes, but
he was working so hard in this
but
sketch,
for whatever reason,
it didn't
I don't know if the props didn't work the way they were meant to. And
Both of the bottles were exposed at the end of the sketch. Do you see that?
yeah.
They're both just gas tanks on top of the. So clearly, like things got jostled around. They didn't try it out enough.
I feel like that they should have made a bigger mess if that was their intention. Maybe it was supposed to make a bigger mess and the stuff just didn't fall the way it was supposed to. Because I got the vibe that it was kind of supposed to be like a Lisa from Temecula thing where
Yes,
the table
yes.
just gets obliterated.
But I
And-
didn't know. But if you and I looked at that sketch again, and we kept pausing it and saying that's the moment it's supposed to go off the rails, I couldn't pick it out.
Yeah.
because it never happened.
Right, exactly.
And so it was just weird.
Yeah, it was awkward. It was not very funny, and it just didn't feel like it landed at all.
And I wonder if honestly, because obviously the smoke of the fajitas is supposed to be a character in the sketch, because especially they wrapped it up to go and it was so smoking.
Right.
I don't get that. I just
No.
don't see why that was funny.
Is there a Real Housewives of Santa Fe? Is that a real thing?
I don't think so. I think they chose Santa Fe
Because of the
that's-
fajitas?
and also because
Because of Temecula.
Santa Fe's like not important enough to have a Real Housewives.
Shout out to our listeners in Santa Fe, no longer listeners.
You don't deserve a Real Housewives of your own.
You pieces of shit.
All right, those are the sketches in the live episode.
Yes.
But if you're an SNL fan, you know this on their YouTube channel, on an SNL YouTube channel.
There's better things.
They cut for time sketches. These are sketches that they make, typically pre-taped sketches, but not always.
Sometimes live sketches from the dress rehearsal, which is recorded every time they do it.
Yep. Because again, that's how their technical staff also gets their practice in.
Mm-hmm.
But these are put on the SNL YouTube channel for us to enjoy. They don't always, but we always enjoy it when they do. And so this week we had a rare treat. We had 2 cut for time sketches.
Love to see it. I love to see it even if they're bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just any extra SNL stuff, I'm going to love it.
Agreed.
Pre-tape, A Father's Promise, written by Andrew Dismukes and August White. In this Cut for Time sketch, parents, played by Gene Smart and Andrew Dismukes, attend their son, Marcelo Hernandez's baseball game. This, I'm going to give you, I don't know how to not pick this as my favorite sketch of the night.
Yeah, I'm going to. I don't care. It doesn't. No, I'm breaking the rules.
This was
so much better.
Yeah.
And by
This is
far,
genuinely hilarious.
I was laughing out loud so many times. This is so much better than everything combined. All the laughs on the show combined were about a quarter of how many times I laughed in this one sketch. It was wonderful.
What's weird too is this sketch is only 4 seconds shorter than Real Housewives of Santa Fe, and I don't know how this doesn't make it instead. The only thing I can think
and
of,
it's a pre-tape.
I think that's the reason. I think that Lorne, sometimes he goes with his gut as far as leaning into live more than pre-tape, and if he has the choice between having 2 pre-tapes and having one more live sketch, he'll go with the live sketch.
Let me just chime in for the 89-year-old in the room. It's okay to have 2 pre-tapes, especially when this one is to anybody that watches comedy, leaps and bounds.
No,
better.
I do. I think you're right.
I just don't.
I don't
get
know
it.
if this is the case, but from what I've read,
if he's
and heard,
overruling this kind of shit, retire.
Yeah,
pre-tape.
but at the same time,
season 51 is going to be amazing.
But you got to wonder if Real Housewives of Santa Fe killed during dress somehow.
I don't give a fuck.
It does seem
I
like
don't
this
care.
though.
Then keep that one and kill something else. This
Listening to the
sketch
Lonely
is
Island,
wonderful.
The Lonely Island podcast, it does seem like for Lorne, pre-tapes are tools to get set up for the next live sketch.
Yeah.
They're not real sketches. Because
he admires them, but they are not the most important thing about
because
it.
he was 40 in 1987.
Yep.
So I get it, but move the fuck on. These are funny things. It's embarrassing.
This sketch is so funny. It's first of all, it's classic Dismukes.
That's what I love
It's
about it.
wonderful.
It is so
the sense of escalation here is great.
Because that's all I can ever talk about. It's the perfect escalation bit. This is more escalation than a lot of Please Don't Destroy videos, which is saying something.
Yeah.
There's so much. By the end of this, he's in a Mario Kart throwing a banana that the cops really slip on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it also, I guess, for Dismukes, it's not just escalation; it's also absurdity. Right?
Absurd escalation, but also grounded in reality.
Yes.
Nothing there. It wasn't like the Mario Kart flew all the way in the sky.
Yeah.
It was all based on pretty things that could happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's just he's wonderful.
I love how the turn comes in this one too. It's a classic way of doing it. Of when he just told his wife that he quit his job and she's so proud
to spend
because for
more
the family.
time with the family.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Wow, I can't believe you quit your job." And he's like, "Well, quit, fired,
Same difference." I just say, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "You know what? We're gonna take in our son's baseball game. We're gonna get home and we're gonna get out your jewelry and see what it's worth." The long drawn out way he's doing it is wonderful. He's cracking open a beer. The Devin Walker again as the umpire yells at him. And you can't drink here. And he goes, "It's in a paper bag. You can't see what it is."
The argument he has with Ashley Padilla as the mom.
At least where's your? He's not even here. It's a little Tim Robinson.
Yeah,
with
it really did feel a little bit like that.
It's just so good. I mean, this sketch, honestly, I'm saying it. This is my sketch of the night.
Well, you can't say that yet because we're not there yet. But
no, I'm doing it. Sorry, I'm
next,
sorry.
Blonde
Breaking
Dragon people in this Cut for Time sketch, Friends. Played by Heidi Gardner, Andrew Speaks, Devin Walker, and Jane Wickline, try to watch a new season of their favorite show, certainly based on the Game of Thrones show,
House of the Dragon.
And so the way they do this is if you've not watched this Cut for Time sketches, they're going back and forth. This is a live sketch, but they're going back and forth with many of the cast members who are dressed as Game of Thrones types of characters, blonde wigs, going back to a couch where the friends are sitting and they're commentating on
the previously on recap.
We need a recap, and I'm very confused as to what's going on.
A lot of the names sound the same.
I have felt like this before.
Oh yeah.
I oftentimes, and I was a Game of Thrones watcher, I watched it with Wikipedia open because I'm like, I don't freaking remember Dragon.
So that's
and all
if I have a
these
complaint
things.
about the sketch, which I do think is funny. I think it goes on a little too long.
It is a little long.
But B, I think the one problem is it veers close to feeling tired because this has been a complaint about Game of Thrones for a long time, and so it's not necessarily like a fresh take on it. It does feel like House of the Dragon veers a little more into this criticism because they do have a lot of characters who have very similar names, and it's like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it gets even worse.
Yeah,
right?
But there's some really great bits in here from cutting back to the friends on the couch, the way they react to the different things and how upset they are.
Is freaking hilarious.
Oh my gosh,
well.
James Austin Johnson is incredible.
He does Ben's British accent.
Yeah. I saw one inside that will apple your head. And like, wait, who is? And like, the fact that they come back there, I've never seen that guy before in this show. Like, that's so good.
That makes no sense.
That doesn't make any sense. And then it's all based around, Dragomir, Dragomir. It's all a DRA name.
Southwestern Coast.
Dragmos.
Dragon instead of dragon. And then Dogmos, and they had a blonde wig on a dog. All of that works for me. It's so funny.
It worked for me. Yep.
And plus, you have the Lord of the Rings twist at the end with Andy Samberg and Jelly Roll.
Which is a great cameo.
And then I'm like, this got cut?
Yeah.
Like, come on. It's now, hey, Lauren, no excuse. Live sketch. What the fuck are you doing?
I think, like you said, Brad, your critique, which I think are founded, aside, it still would be one of the better live sketches.
Oh yeah,
these are the best two sketches.
There are 3 sketches that I would have replaced with either of these two.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
easily.
And so those are your episode. That's your episode for tonight. Let's get into sketch of the night. I'll go first because I'm going to say it, and I want you to follow me. I'm going to say pre-tape A Father's Promise is my favorite sketch of the night.
By far.
If we're going to talk about the live show, for me, I thought I named the best sketch as Spirit Halloween.
That would be my favorite.
But A Father's Promise is the funniest sketch.
Yeah,
that we
those
watched.
2 pre-tapes.
If it's a live show, it's definitely Bowen Yang as the hippo.
We don't get to pick the
Yeah, no, I'm changing it this year.
Who's the MVP? Though?
I'm changing it this year. I do what I want now.
Who's the MVP?
It's Devin Walker.
Oh.
It's Devin Walker. I
think that's fair.
He was consistent across the board. It's unexpected.
Do we get to pick?
It was going to be Bowen Yang because he was in everything. But to me, honestly, Devin Walker, this is the first time I've seen him show up, and he showed up a lot. He did a great job. He didn't flub one line. To me, it's Devin Walker.
I went with Andrew Smooks because
That's
believe that I think he wrote the Father's Promise and then also started it, did great. And also...
And was the best part of the
in Blonde Dragon People. He was freaking fantastic.
I think I would have given it to him if those sketches were both in the show, but I do think that Ben is probably right that it probably should go to Devin Walker.
I mean, what an astounding turn, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so cool to see him featured prominently, to see him crush it.
Yeah.
He didn't fuck up once, and that's not to say, like, that's the only thing, but he did well.
Yeah.
He added to every sketch he was in.
I agree.
I think a lot of our listeners...
Why don't you like Devin Walker, Nate?
I think a lot of our listeners are wondering what you have against Andrew Smooks.
Well, get your sketches on the air.
Well, here's the thing. We have a special...
By the way, just in case he would ever hear my voice, I am so sorry. I think you're one of the funniest men on the planet. We came to see you in Chicago. You were wonderful.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have a special place for Andrew Smooks in our hearts because we met him, Nate.
Yeah. He is so affable and nice. And where were you, by the way? We invited you.
Yeah, why didn't you come?
I was praying about my girlfriend.
Oh, you had a girlfriend. Cool. So much fun. Kissing the mouth.
Show me your lips.
But...
Show me your lips.
We want to hear from you. Again, if you are listening to this and you haven't liked us on the Twitter or the X, whatever you choose to call it.
No. You call it Twitter or you don't call it anything.
Or Facebook.
My ex calls it Twitter. And my Twitter calls it X.
We want to hear from you what your favorite sketches were, what you thought of this episode.
At least, what's the one you hated the least?
Yep. And let us know. Bradford, what do we have coming up on SNL?
Nate Bargatze is the next host.
Bargatze.
And, again, the season premiere, They are the Bernier.
Bernier.
They are
Brazier.
not necessarily known to be
Correct.
perfect.
Yes.
Now we've got a week at least under our belts. We're back into it.
Yep.
I'm very hopeful.
We got a fun comedian on the way. Coldplay will be joining as a musical guest, and Chris Martin has been known from time to time to get in on some sketch comedy himself.
He just went undercover in Las Vegas to a karaoke bar.
Did he really?
Did he really?
Yep, with long hair and a suit and tie that was ill-fitting.
Yeah.
And he sang like Chris Martin, and people were perfectly like supporting this guy.
Yeah.
That they clearly did not know, because he's got a golden honey voice.
Yeah.
And they're like, he finishes a line, and they're like, you just hear in the background like people that are not even paying attention, like, woo, good job for you, man. It's that. You got to watch it. Chris Martin does Karaoke Vegas.
That's amazing.
All right, boys, rank these for me. Next 4 episodes, rank them for me in your excitement level.
We haven't seen him.
No. Of what you're excited to see. You got Nate Bargatze, Ariana Grande, Michael Keaton, and John Mulaney. Who are you most excited for?
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Michael Keaton for sure. It's been too long. He hasn't hosted since 2015, so I'm most jazzed. I'm of course very excited about John Mulaney because he always delivers. But
So,
Keaton, I'm most excited about.
Keaton, Mulaney, and then who?
And for me, it's Keaton because also the musical guest Billie Eilish, who has hosted before, so she's going to be
Very
in some
funny.
things, and I love that dynamic, especially because I love her.
Calm down.
Okay, so yeah, it's Keaton, Mulaney,
Bargatze, Ariana Grande.
Did you guys not like the Bargatze episode from last year?
Oh no,
I love it.
I do.
You're
but
not looking forward to it.
I'm just
That's third place. That's not
out of
real
4. It's just.
Yeah, it's second to last.
Oh my god, he's a child.
I mean, to be fair, like third place out of 4 does not sound great. It just doesn't.
So you're not looking forward to
We're
Ariana
just
Grande.
super hyped for the other 3.
Yeah, and
I don't-
Ariana Grande.
It's just like
maybe
I don't
she can be funny, but like I just don't really like her that much. She always looks like a child to me.
It's just a lot of like the joke is just that she's
I'm a baby doll.
No. To me, the joke to me is that SNL portrays her as she is godly famous. Like she's so famous, and
Yeah.
like look at what she's doing on the show. It's like
Yeah.
I don't think to me she's not that famous. She's just a person. So
No, she's pretty famous.
I know, but like I don't look
It's
at her
not as
like
if she
that.
hasn't been silly before too. Like she started her career on Nickelodeon. You know.
It's just there's a pedestal of like, oh, look at what this very famous singer is stooping down to do, but it's like no, she's
How tight do you think her braid's gonna be this time?
yeah, it's just weird.
I don't care.
All right. Well, that is the
Are
episode.
we being too harsh right now?
A little bit. Yeah, I'm ending it for a reason.
Hey, by the way, Nate, same question.
I
Rank 'em,
would
1 through 4.
say I think I'm most excited for. I'm gonna go with Mulaney, Bargatze, Keaton, Grande.
Wow, what do you have against Michael
what do you have
Keaton?
against Michael Keaton? You don't like him?
He's fine.
Do you hate that Billie Eilish isn't straight? Is that what it is? Is that what your beef is with that episode?
No,
You sure?
I just I'm
Because
not,
3 out of 4 seems pretty bad.
I'm not sure how Keaton does as a sketch comedy performer.
Oh, you don't think he's funny?
Do you remember 2015 the Easter Bunny sketch?
I'm just very excited about getting Bargatze back.
That's fine.
But
But listener, do yourself a favor, look up Michael Keaton Easter sketch SNL, and you'll laugh. I promise you
I
will.
bet it will. Yep,
Joe
I
Wicker,
need to rewatch it.
look it up right now.
All right. If you are curious about other things that we do, we also host another podcast called Go Flix Yourself. That is the first podcast we did before we did this one, where we talk about movies and trailers and have a little bit of fun hanging out and talking about the movies we've watched and just, other hijinks. So you can go to goflixyourself.com and find us there. Do, again, rate and review and share this podcast. If you know of anybody excited about SNL as well, subscribe to us on YouTube. Wherever you can, share these episodes. It helps us out. And we'd love to hear from you. Give us some feedback. Send us an email. We'd love to hear where you're listening from and things like that. Brad, where can people find you online?
Always on Twitter at Ethan_Anderton. And also you can find my full reviews of new episodes of Saturday Night Live on slashfilm.com, typically the morning/afternoon after the episode.
So if he seems a
debuts.
little bit more polished than Nate and I, it's because he's written a professional review of the show before we record this. We've never really brought that up, by the way. You always get to write this whole thing and have all your thoughts laid out professionally, and we are just over here flying by the seat of our pants.
To be fair,
It's called preparing.
I am not flying by the seat of my pants, by the way.
Also, true. Nate does
Nate
a lot of
prepares.
research.
Yeah,
and
so Ben, you're the only one who doesn't prepare for the podcast.
and
I was
so
going to say, don't include me.
okay, Nate prepares as well. Therefore, if you find that I am just as astute and knowledgeable,
Wow.
that's a bit of credit going my way.
Interesting. Okay.
That's the way I'm choosing to view this.
All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll be back next week for another episode of the 10 to 1 podcast. Thank you again. Rate, review. We'll be back again in a week.
And we'll be talking about Saturday Night very soon as well.
You guys have seen it, yeah?
It is currently playing in New York and LA. It will be in select theaters this coming Friday, and then we'll go wide everywhere on October 11th, and that will likely be the weekend that we talk about that movie.
Yeah, and I'm having a hard time ending this episode. So here we go. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Bye-bye.